Underhook, knee on belly, so I'm going heavy shoulder pressure, pulling my elbow in nice and tight towards my hip. I'm walking my hand up. When the hand won't bring his elbow up any further, so if Darren tries to fight it, this is where I start to pass over into the mount. Knees go up to the armpit so he can't put us back into a half guard, and I bring my hand inside my elbow. Alright, if my hand goes outside my elbow, it's a lot weaker, so hand goes inside and my elbow is just behind Darren's elbow or tricep. We start to walk up. When we come to a point where we can't go any further, I draw like a semicircle with my head and my upper body, and then I start to walk with my hand. So now we have this 12-6 position. I bring my chin to the outside of his tricep or his elbow, and I slide my hand down so I'm not losing connection. So if we lose connection, then he can free his elbow. I then push my opponent slightly onto his side and I uppercut. The reason for this is I want to get my bicep connected to his artery. We drop back down and I'm going to take a gable grip. Like see the way I'm kind of like going like into like a low kind of mount, so I'm hipping in and then I pummel off here. Drop our hips to the floor. If we find that we need to get extra bit of kind of like tightness or connection, what we do is we go palm facing up on the choking hand, and I'm going to take an S grip. So I'm going to use my left hand to pull my right hand towards me, and this gives me tighter connection. Once I feel I have the tight connection, I keep my head glued to my partner's tricep. This pushes his bicep in towards the opposite artery, and I go back to my gable grip. I open my elbow and I start to walk to my elbow. Open and walk. I drop my shoulder down and then I look over in a semicircular kind of direction to get the finish. A big detail here, when I'm starting to bring the elbow up to 12 o'clock, if I find at any stage that when I give up my right arm for a crossface, this can leave me vulnerable for like Darren to kind of like hip bump and bump me over towards my right elbow and end up sweeping, coming up to close guard. So if I want to get like extra control, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do what we call a single grapevine mount. It's where I hook with active toes on my training partner's ankle, and I bring his foot outside his knee line. I then have active toes on the far side, so if you can see my right leg here, I'm digging my toes into the mat. So if Darren tries to bridge now, it should be a lot harder, and this buys me some time. Again, if his ankle goes inside his knee here, so if he starts to bring his foot in and he starts to bridge, you can see he can get more power. So if I can bring his foot or his ankle outside his knee line, if he tries to bridge now, it's a lot harder, and this buys me time. You can also see in this position, Darren is framing with his forearm. So he's kind of making like nearly like a 90-degree angle with his forearm in relation to his tricep here. So if I find I'm not able to walk this up, what I'm going to do is I switch to crossface. So I go from a right-handed crossface to like a left grip here. So it's not so much like a crossface, but just control of my partner's head. And then I pummel my right hand inside here. Then what we start to do is we start to bring his arm away and I lock up an Americana grip. So to get a good angle on this, I want to look towards his legs. I bring his elbows in nice and tight. My left hand, I bring the knuckles down towards the floor. I do the same with the right hand, and then I bring his elbow in towards his lat, and I bring his elbow over his hand. So what I mean by in towards his lat is his elbow comes in this direction here. So left hand, knuckles down, right hand, knuckles down, elbow in towards his lat, then I'm going to bring his elbow over his hand to get the finish.